Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in once again to Queen Amadai TV, More Than Meets the Third Eye. I'm your host, Queen AmadaiShakur, and this is your spiritual vitamins. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, so let's get ready to get into it. Shout out to everyone in the chat and everyone tuned into the Queen. So we're going to be talking about the lesser key of King Solomon. Okay, the lesser key of Solomon. So let's get into it. Now, for those of you that saw my morning broadcast, you may recall that I was talking about this. And basically, I was saying that this is something that an insider told me that Diddy has been using. Okay, so with that all being said, let's talk about it. I'm going to give you a bit more information on this. Now, mind you, these are the seals. As I said earlier, I'm going to go over some of this for those who weren't in the morning live and who don't know what these things mean. Okay, so these are some of the seals of the 72 demons. Okay, the 72 demons. Now, the demons' names are taken from the Ars Goetia, which differs in terms of number and ranking from the Pseudomarchia Dominium. And this was written by someone by the name of Weyer. So as a result of multiple translations, there are multiple spellings for some of the names, which are given in the, there are multiple spellings for some of the names, okay, which they vary in these different books. Okay, so please pay attention. But nonetheless, there are 72 of these demons that King Solomon supposedly got and enlisted them in the aid of them to building his temple. For those of you who missed the video that I did months ago about the esoteric meaning of King Solomon's temple, please go back and watch. So the lesser key of Solomon, or Lemegeton. Now, this is the Latin name, okay? Lemegeton clavicula Salomonis, all right? Or in short, just the Legometon, okay? And so this book was written in the 17th century, and it is a grimoire. Now, in case you don't know what that is, a grimoire is a book of spells, rituals, and incantations that give you instructions on how to perform conjurations, okay? Now, some people get into this stuff because they're into black magic. Some people get into it out of curiosity. Some people, are They want to conjure these entities to have them doing things for them, going out, getting revenge on people, or just helping them to know certain things. Because remember, demons are clairvoyant, so they know things in advance. And so some people use them for that. No matter what their excuse is, at the end of the day, it's all nefarious. You should not be dabbling with demons any way, shape, or form, as far as I'm concerned. Because at the end of the day, these things can absolutely possess you, they can influence you, oppress you, and it's never anything good that comes as the consequence of using these sorts of things. Okay, please pay attention. Now, as I told you earlier, this is a tool. Okay, this is one of the tools that are in the book, The Lesser Key of Solomon. Now, this is the magic circle and the triangle of art. Now, when the person is conjuring these demons, you see, they are supposed to stand in the midst of this circle as a level of protection. Okay. Now, you may have seen this before. How many of you saw the movie The Skeleton Key? How many of you saw the movie The Skeleton Key? One's in the chat if you ever saw that movie, The Skeleton Key. That was a really good movie, by the way. Okay, so nobody saw it. Nobody saw that movie. That's very interesting. Well, nonetheless, there's a scene in the movie. Okay, that's a really good movie. Y'all should go back and watch it. Okay, I see a few people putting in ones, but here's the thing. In that movie, there was a point when the main character, it's Goldie Hawn's daughter. I want to say her name is Kate Hudson. I could be wrong. Okay, so Kate Hudson was in the center of a circle. She was casting a spell, and she was trying to protect herself. So she had a circle that she was in the center of, and she put salt around it and all of that. So that was her protection. And that's what happens when you're doing these spells and incantations that are in the lesser key of Solomon. You're supposed to be the magician or the conjurer, the person trying to summon these demons. They're supposed to stand in the center of the circle and not even so much as sticking your foot outside of it or your arm, because there could be deadly consequences. Okay, you could absolutely be attacked by one of these demons. Now, when you're summoning or conjuring the spirit would be in the center of the triangle. Okay, notice the triangle of art. So like I said, this is just a level of protection. Now, with that all being said, it appeared in the 17th century, but much of it was taken from the text of the 16th century, including the Pseudomachia Daemonium by Johann Weyer, okay, the late medieval grimoires. It is likely that books by Jewish Kabbalists and Muslim mystics were also inspirations. And speaking of that, there are several books, about 5 books, if I'm not mistaken, that are looked upon as they should be banned. There are these books that have been highly criticized because of the nature of the things being taught in them. And at the top of that list is, in fact, the Lesser Key of Solomon. Okay, now they also have the Greater Key of Solomon, and we'll talk about that at a later date. So anyway, some of the material in the first section concerning the summoning of demons dates all the way back to the 14th century. Now, mind you, there are 5 sections. This book is divided into 5 sections. Okay. So the book claims that it was originally written by King Solomon, although this is certainly not true. Okay. The titles of nobility assigned to the demons were unknown in his time, as were the prayers to Jesus and the Christian Trinity included in the text. Now, the Lesser Key of Solomon contains detailed descriptions of spirits and the conjurations that are needed to invoke and oblige them to do the will of the conjurer, okay, referred to as the exorcist. Now, it details the protective signs and rituals to be performed, the actions necessary to prevent the spirits from gaining control, the preparations prior to the invocations, and instructions on how to make the necessary instruments of the execution of these rituals. Now, I want you all to pay attention, because this sounds all nefarious. This is absolutely nothing that I would ever want anything to do with. Okay? I don't want anything to do with this. Now, you're talking about invoking and summoning and conjuring demons and all of that, and then you have to protect yourself. First of all, the fact that you have to protect yourself and know that these demons can at some point attack you, do something to you, even kill you, that should be enough that you don't even want to deal with it. That's just me. Okay, now this right here is the secret seal of Solomon. Now you see, it is said that King Solomon used this seal as another layer of protection. So basically, when he's summoning these demons and conjuring them up, if any of them got out of control, the seal was supposed to be used to take their power, okay, to take their power, and then basically to trap them in like a sort of prison where they couldn't do anything. Now, once that was done, then King Solomon would put them in this container, which is called the brass vessel, or it's also known as the vessel of brass. Okay, this was a huge container made out of brass and iron that he would put these things in, these 72 demons. He supposedly locked them in there after they had done his bidding, where he had enslaved them and gotten them to build a temple. So then afterwards, he supposedly put them in here. Okay. Now, this is the ring of Solomon. Okay. That is the ring of Solomon. So, with that all being said, I want you all to pay attention, because all of these things, all of these different tools are what they say King Solomon used. And I find it interesting because people can actually purchase these things if they want to dabble in this stuff. I don't know why anyone would. I guess some people are nefarious. That's just my opinion. Have any of you, once in the chat, have you ever used or read the Lesser Key of Solomon? Has anyone ever used or read that? Likes up, by the way, everyone, please like and share. And I'm also wondering if this has anything to do with the Lord of the Rings. I just have questions, okay? Now, the Ring of Solomon was also known as the Seal of Solomon. It's a signet ring that is said to have belonged to King Solomon, okay, in a central part of medieval mystical traditions. And also, it was also developed in Jewish mysticism, Islamic mysticism, and Western occultism. The Ring of Solomon is also a small semicircle that forms a line across the base of the finger of Jupiter. Excuse me. Palmists may use this line to indicate love of a skill in occult studies. So everybody's putting no. Everyone said that they've never used any of this. I have several questions. Some of y'all might not be telling the truth. Okay, some of y'all might have absolutely used this for nefariousness as far as I'm concerned. Luna Walker said the movie The Ring. Okay. I mean, you never know. It absolutely can have something to do with that. So, anyway, as I said, I have a list of the 72 names of these demons, which I'm not going to bother to read because I don't want to mistakenly conjure them up. All right. I don't want to mistakenly conjure them up. You all know me. I'm not going to be calling on demons, period. Just like when I read you all that scary story that time and they had the demons in there and calling the names, I refuse to read it. Okay, but that's just me. And so, anyway, it goes on to say that the Lesser Key of Solomon. Okay, much of the text appeared earlier, with some material dating all the way back to the 14th century or even earlier to then. It contains descriptions of the 72 demons that King Solomon is said to have evoked and confined to a bronze vessel sealed by magic symbols, and then he obliged them to do his work. So the Ars Thurgia Goetia, which is the art of Goetia Thurgy, okay, is the second section of the Lesser Key of Solomon. Now, it explains the names, characteristics, and seals of the 31 aerial spirits called chiefs, emperors, kings, and princes, okay, that King Solomon invoked and confined. The protections against them are the names of their servant spirits called dukes, okay, as well as the conjurations to invoke them in all of their nature, that is both good and evil. All of this is contained in this book. Now, their sole objective is to discover and show hidden things, the secrets of any person, and obtain, carry, and do anything asked to them. Meanwhile, they are contained in any of the four elements, okay, earth, wind, fire, and water. Now, these spirits are given in a complex order in the book, and some of them have spelling variations according to the different editions. Now, the Ars Paulina, which is known as the art of Paul. Now, this is the third part of the Lesser Key of Solomon. According to the legend, this art was discovered by the Apostle Paul. Okay, but in the book, it is mentioned as the Pauline art of King Solomon. Now, the Ars Paulina was already known since the Middle Ages. It is divided into 2 chapters in the book. The first chapter refers on how to deal with the angels of the several hours of the day, meaning day and night, to their seals, their nature, their servants called dukes, the relation of these angels with the 7 planets known at the time, and the proper astrological aspects to invoke them, as well as their names in a couple of cases coinciding with 2 of the 72 demons mentioned in the Ars Goetia, the conjuration and the invocation to call them so they can do practices for the person. Now, the second chapter concerns the angels that rule over the zodiacal signs and each degree of every sign. The relation is with the 4 elements: fire, earth, water, and air. Now, their names and their seals are, air, wind, same thing basically. Now, so with that all being said, these are called here the angels of men, because all persons are born under a zodiacal sign with the sun at a specific degree of it. Okay, let's not forget that there's 88 constellations, and out of the 88 constellations, there's 12 that are in the direct path of the sun. Those that are in the direct path of the sun are the ones that we're born under, okay, our astrological signs. Now, the Ars Almadal. Now, this is the art of the Almadal. It is the 4th part of the Lesser Key of Solomon. It tells how to make the Almadal, which is a wax tablet with protective symbols drawn onto it. Now, on it are placed 4 candles. Now, this chapter has the instructions concerning the colors, materials, and rituals necessary for the construction of the Almadal and the candles. Now, the Ars Almadal also tells about the angels that are to be invoked and explains that only reasonable and just things are needed must be asked of them, okay, and how the conjuration has to be made. It also mentions 12 princes ruling with them. Now, the dates and astrological aspects that have to be considered most convenient to invoke the angels are detailed but briefly, so it doesn't give a whole lot of information, okay. And then you have the Ars Notoria. The Ars Notoria, which is the notable art, that's what that translates to. It is the 5th and last part of the Lesser Key of Solomon. It was indeed a grimoire known since the Middle Ages. Now, the book asserts that this art was revealed by the Creator by means of an angel to King Solomon. Now, it contains a collection of prayers, some of them divided into several parts, mixed with Kabbalistic and magical words in several languages such as Hebrew, Greek, etc. Okay, and some inventions. Now, how the prayers, and it also tells you how the prayers must be said and the relation that these rituals have to the understanding of all sciences. It mentions the aspects of the moon in relation with the prayers. Now, it also says that the prayers act as an invocation to God's angels. According to the book, the correct spelling of the prayers gives the knowledge of the science related to each one, and also a good memory, stability of mind, and eloquence. This chapter prevents on the precepts that have to be observed to obtain a good result. So one of the prayers said to have been called Artem Novum in Latin by King Solomon makes mention to Jesus. Other prayers mention God the Father, his son Jesus, and the Holy Ghost, precisely the Christian Trinity. Okay, another mentions apostles and martyrs, and another one is the Lord's Prayer. Now, finally, it tells how King Solomon received the revelation from the angel. So now here's the thing. This object should have been used for the holy work only, not satanic use. Well, see, that's the thing, beloved. You see, Claudette said no thank you, okay? Well, here's the thing. As I told you all before, some of the things that are made for good, probably anything that's made for good, can be used for bad. Okay, like crystals that come from the earth can be used to heal you, but people can take them and do dark magic with them, which some people absolutely do. So it just depends on the intentions. And that's why when you do anything, even if you're meditating or manifesting, you have to always set your intentions, because it's all about what you're trying to accomplish at the end of the day. Okay. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Now, here's the thing. King Solomon is said to have been given the Lesser Key of Solomon because it is a compilation of ancient writings and materials that make up a magic textbook or grimoire. Okay, the book is also known as Lemegeton, as I told you already. Now, the Lesser Key of Solomon has been through many editions with different authors and editors. Okay, so the term Lesser Key of Solomon is not used in the manuscripts, but A.E. Waite may have coined it in the 1898 book, okay, of Black Magic and Pacts. Now, the book is said to have been written by King Solomon himself, but like I told you all, that's not true. Okay, at the end of the day, these instructions for the rituals, the incantations, all done to summon and control demons and spirits. Magicians have used the book for centuries. Okay, so this is what magicians use. Some of them, not all. I just wonder if David Blaine and David Copperfield have ever used it. Okay, but its true purposes and origins are unknown. See, they don't really know where this book exactly came from or who, in fact, wrote it, which I find all very interesting. Now, here is a brief description of all 72 demons in Ars Goetia, the number of legions they command, as well as their ranking. Okay, the first one, and I'm sure you've heard of this one before, it's Baal. I don't want to say these names. I'm just going to spell them. Okay. This is the first king of hell. Do you all remember? I think I did a video about the princes of hell. I'm pretty sure I did a video about that. But anyway, it says this is the first king of hell with dominions in the east. He has three heads. Now I'm giving you descriptions of them so you can picture this in your mind. Okay, he has three heads: a frog, a man, and a cat. Those are the three heads. He speaks in a husky but well-formed voice and teaches the art of invisibility. He may be the equivalent of Baal or Beelzebub. Okay, and I know you've heard of them. All right, then the next one has 31 legions. Okay, and the name is Agares. Okay, this one rules the east side of hell. Now, he can make fugitives turn and those who stay put into running. He delights in teaching immoral expressions, okay, has the power to make or destroy temporal and supernatural dignities. And he is depicted as a pale man riding on a crocodile. Sounds nefarious. Now, this next, oh, and I'm sorry, the first one had 66 legions. Okay, remember I told you when these demons come, they're never by themselves. That's why when Jesus was casting out the demon in the Bible, he asked the demon its name, because that's how you command it, and that's how you get control and have dominion over the demon. You make it tell you its name. And the demon told Jesus that his name was Legion. I am Legion, for we are many. Okay, and there's usually many legions of demons. Now, this first one had 66 legions. The second one had 31. Okay. And now this next one has 26 legions, and the name is Prince, Vassago. Again, I'm not going to say these names, so I'll just spell them to you. And by the way, the first one was a king, Bael. The next one was a duke, Agares. And then the third one is Prince, Vassago. Okay. Now, y'all can think I'm crazy if you want to. Luna said Hillary's a demon. Y'all can think I'm crazy if you want to, but I promise you, I'm not saying these names, because you never know if just saying their name will make them appear. Okay, and I don't have time for it. But let's continue. So now this one can be persuaded to tell them. Can be persuaded to tell the mage events past and future and discover things hidden and lost. Okay, and has a good nature and manifest as an angel. It is not listed in Ware's Pseudomarchia Dominium. All right, now Here's the thing, says it has a good nature and manifests as an angel. So is it really an angel or just manifesting as one? That's what you should be asking yourself. Please pay attention. Okay. Now the next one has, and that one has 26 legions. Now the next one is Marquise, and then it's Samigina. It has 30 legions, and it's also called Gamigin. Now he teaches all the liberal sciences and gives an account of the souls of those who died in sin and drowned in the sea. Speaking in a rough voice, he answers what is asked and stays with a mage until satisfied. He is depicted as a miniature horse or donkey, which changes shape into a man at the wizard's request. And I guess the wizard would be the magician or the person who's conjuring him. Okay, now mind you, I'm not going through all of these. If y'all think I'm going to sit here and go through all 72 of these, you got another thing coming. Okay, I'm going to tell you a couple of more, and then we're going to move on because this is all nefarious. Then there's another one. King Paimon has 200 legions, one of the kings of hell, more obedient to Lucifer than the others. He has a great voice and roars when he arrives until the mage forces him to answer the questions put to him. Okay, when a spellcaster summons it, he must look northwest toward Paimon's house. When Paimon appears, he must be allowed to ask the spellcaster what he wants and be answered to get the same from him. Now, he teaches all arts, philosophy, sciences, and the secret things. He can reveal all of the mysteries of the earth, wind, and water, what the mind is, where it is, and whatever the magician wants to know. He bestows good family dignities, confirms them, and subjects humans to the mage's will. If he is called alone, some offering or sacrifice must be made. Okay? If he's called alone, some offering or sacrifices must be made, and he will accept it. Two kings named Bebal and Label in Abalam will go to him with other spirits. Now, usually 25 legions. Oh, our Lord, I just said their names. I literally just said their names. I didn't know those were demons. Okay, too late now. Too late now. Okay. Uh Luna said, Queen, remember you said Diddy was growling. Yes, he was. Absolutely he was. Okay. Just thought about that. Isn't that strange? And we already know that demons be growling. Okay, please pay attention. Oh, hold on. Terry Hinton's getting scared. Terry Hinton says, Queen, no more. And then says, Lord, keep us strong from Satan and his demons. I don't mean to laugh at you, beloved, but this is all hilarious to me because at the end of the day, you have power and dominion over these demons, and we all do. But being fearful of them gives them the power and control. Okay, so Terry Hinton's had enough. I'm going to stop reading those names. Okay, I'm going to stop reading those names. Odd Negroes official said we're going to need some holy water and a rosemary. Dragon Lily said, I hope you got your sage going. You all are something else. Listen, you all wanted me to talk about this. Now y'all are scared. Don't get scared now, beloveds. This is just the beginning. At the end of the day, here's the thing. We're not going to be invoking or calling on any of these nefarious entities to do anything for us, right? That's what we're not going to be doing. And so at the end of the day, I don't think we have anything to worry about, okay? Luna said, I need a drink, but it's too early. Dragon Lily said, I'm not scared. The beginning. Okay, so now let's continue. So I'm not going to read all of those names because, like I said, it's 72 of them and it would take me quite a while. And it's giving you descriptions of all of them. I just wanted you to basically get an idea because some of them or all of them have a different rank in hell. Okay, and they also, basically rule over different parts of hell, like the north, the east, or whatever. Okay, so please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, I'm going to show you some videos, some TikTok videos of what people had to say about this book, The Lesser Key of Solomon. Okay, likes up, everyone, please like and share. Now, but before we get into that, hold on. Hold on, beloveds. These pop-ups, okay. They actually have some pictures of some of these other grimoires. And remember, the grimoires are just a book, just different types of books that have instructions on casting spells and performing rituals and things like that. And this is just one type of grimoire, the Lesser Key of Solomon, but they have all sorts of different ones. Okay, now me personally, I don't want any of them. I don't need them because I'm not out here trying to cast spells, conjure up anything, perform incantations. I'm trying to do. So I really don't need any of that stuff. But I want you all to look at this video because the 36 spirits of the zodiac told Solomon their purpose and weaknesses. This is part one. Okay, so I want you all to see this. I'm going to share my screen. Dragon Lily says, will the people need exorcists that have dealt with Diddy? I feel bad for them. Well, you know, some of them may absolutely need deliverance, beloved. This is just a fact. Okay, because when someone has demons attached to them, and then you have relations with this person, whether you intentionally consented to it or you didn't, these things can become attached to you. It's like soul ties. Even if you're in a relationship with someone voluntarily and this person has these malevolent entities attached to them, they now are attached to you. Okay, because there's a transference of energy when people are intimate with one another. Okay, and that's why we have something called soul ties. And I've told you all about that before. If you missed the video that I did about soul ties, please go back and watch at your convenience. Okay, Della says, what the hell? Queen, then you said there's no hell before, so how is that possible? Please explain. Well, here's the thing. You know, there are portals in the earth. Now, as far as there being a place where there's eternal fire of brimstone burning and there's going to be the gnashing of teeth and your soul's going to burn forever, there absolutely is no such thing like that. At least not in my opinion. I don't think that the Most High God would have us burning and torturing forever because we're sinning, when of course everyone sins. If you didn't sin, you would have to be perfect, and no one is. Now, what I do believe is that there are, I do believe that there are portals where negative entities, malevolent spirits dwell, because we do believe in demons, right? How many of you believe in demons? One's in the chat. One's in the chat. Terry Hinn said, Queen, I noticed my friend who suffers from depression has a heavy spirit. Likely demonic, beloved. Like I told you, depression is a form of mind control, and these things come from malevolent spirits much of the time. Okay? Okay, so with that all being said, you all believe in demons. Where do you think demons dwell? Do they dwell in a house? Do they dwell in a car? Do they live at hotels? Well, I would think that these malevolent spirits live somewhere underground. Just like we think that angels, many people think that angels live in the sky, right? I would think that low vibrational beings and entities live underground somewhere. I don't think that's the place where we're going to go when we leave here like hell. And as I told you all before, for those of you who've heard me talk about Project CERN, I told you that when they were trying to start that particle collider, they basically, or the accelerator, they were basically saying that they were trying to recreate the Big Bang Theory. Now, I don't think they were recreating the Big Bang Theory. I think they were trying to open a portal in the earth to raise this nefarious energy, which is the Antichrist energy. Remember how I told you that the Antichrist is not a person, it's an energy? At least that's my opinion and belief. Okay, so this energy which is nefarious, is somewhere underground. That's just what I think. Okay, I'm not saying that there's a place called hell where you're going to go after you leave, because after you leave here, your soul, in my opinion, is recycled. Okay, this is what I call reincarnation. This is why I believe that people live many lives, and the spirit and soul are energy, so they live forever. It is the physical body that dies. Okay, so let's go to the video. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
After the Nephilim demon had been bound, Solomon commanded another demon to come before him. And there came before his face 36 spirits, most of their heads shaped like animals, but in themselves they were in human form, having faces of all sorts, faces of asses, faces of lion, faces of oxen, and faces of birds. These were the spirits of the zodiacal circle, and of the 36 constellations, called decans, in ancient Egyptian astronomy. And Solomon, on seeing them, wondered, and asked them, saying, Who are you? But they, of one accord, with one voice, said, We are the 36 elements, the world rulers of darkness. And O, King Solomon, you will not wrong us, nor imprison us, nor lay command on us. But since the Lord God has given you authority over every spirit, in the air, and on the earth, and under the earth, we therefore also present ourselves before you, like the other spirits, from ram and bull, from both twin and crab, from lion and virgin, from scales and scorpion, from archer and goat-horned, and from water pourer and fish. Then Solomon invoked the name of the Lord Sabaoth, and questioned each, in turn, as to what was its character. He bade each one to come forward, and tell of its actions. And the 36 spirits came forward in threes, each set of 3, representing one zodiacal sign. The first 3 decans came forward, and introduced themselves as the decans of the first zodiacal sign, the one known as Aries, or the ram. And Solomon questioned them, saying, What are you called? And the first spirit said, I am called Ruax, and I cause the heads of men to be idle, and pillage their brows. But if I hear the words, Michael, imprison Ruax, I retreat at once. The second said, I am called Barsaphael, and I cause those who are subject to my hour to feel the pain of migraine. If only I hear the words, Gabriel, imprison Barsaphael, I retreat at once. And the third said, I am.
Now pay attention because these demons are all telling him what they do, what they cause, and how they're weakened or how they're no longer able to use their power. Okay, please pay attention.
I am called a rotosale. I do harm to the eyes, and grievously injure them. Only let me hear the words, Uriel, imprison a ratasale, and I'll retreat at once. The fourth spirit was not given account of, or perhaps he declined to introduce himself, but he is called Horapel. The fifth spirit said, I am called Eudel, and I bring about a block in the ears, and deafness of hearing. If I hear, Uriel, imprison Eudel, I retreat at once. And the sixth said, I am called Sundanail. I cause tumors of the parotid gland, and inflammations of the tonsils, and tetanic recurvation. If I hear, Sabrail, imprison Sundanail, I retreat at once. These spirits, from the 4th to the 6th, were the 3 decans of the zodiacal sign, Taurus, or the bull. The 7th spirit said, I am called Svander, and I weaken the strength of the shoulders, and cause them to tremble. I paralyze the nerves of the hands, I break and bruise the bones of the neck, and I suck out the marrow. But if I hear the words, Aral, imprison Svander, I at once retreat. The 8th said, I am called Belbel. I distort the hearts and minds of men. If I hear the words, Aral, imprison Belbel, I at once retreat. And the 9th said, I am called Curtail. I send colics in the bowels, and I induce pains. If I hear the words, Ioth, imprison Curtail, I at once retreat. These spirits, from 7th to 9th, were the 3 decans of the zodiacal sign, Gemini, or the twins. The 10th spirit said, I am called Metathiax. I cause the reins to ache. If I hear the words, Adonal, imprison Metathiax, I at once retreat. The 11th said, I am called Catanicotal. I create strife and wrongs in men's homes, and send on them hard temper. If anyone would be at peace in his home, let him write on 7 leaves of laurel the name of the angel that frustrates me, along with these words, Io, sons of Sabaoth, in the name of the great God, shut up Catanicotal. Then let him wash the laurel leaves in water, and sprinkle his house with the water, from within to the outside. And at once I shall retreat. And the 12th said, I am called Saphatharael, and I inspire partisanship in men, and delight in causing them to stumble. If anyone will write on paper these names of angels, Iako, Elo, Iolit, Sabaoth, Ithoth, Pe, and having folded it up, wear it round his neck or against his ear, I at once retreat and dissipate the drunken fit. These spirits, from the 10th to the 12th, were the 3 decans of the zodiacal sign, Cancer, or the crab. The 13th spirit said, I am called Bobble, I am also called Bothothel, and I cause nervous illness by my assaults. If I hear the name of the great, as thus, Adonal, imprison Bothothel, I at once retreat. The 14th said, I am called Cumentel, and I inflict shivering fits and torpor. If only I hear the words, Zoroel, imprison Cumentel, I at once retreat. And the 15th said, I am called Rolled, some call me Subeti. I cause cold, and frost, and pain in the stomach. Let me only hear the words, Ix, bide not, be not warmed, for Solomon is fairer than 11 fathers, I at once retreat. These spirits, from 13th to 15th, were the 3 decans of the zodiacal sign, Leo, or the lion. The 16th spirit said, I am called Artrix. I inflict upon men fevers, both irremediable and harmful.
Now, I want you all to pay attention because all of these demons are saying that they cause different ailments within the body. Now, I don't know if you've heard this before, but demons absolutely do and can cause illness. Okay? If you've never heard that before, you can research it yourself. It has been said that demons absolutely can cause illness. Okay? Please pay attention.
If you would imprison me, chop up coriander and smear it on the lips, reciting the following charm, this fever which is from dirt, I exorcise thee by the throne of the Most High God. Retreat from dirt, and retreat from the creature fashioned by God. And at once I shall retreat. The 17th said, I am called Eropale. On the stomach of men do I sit, and cause convulsions, in the bath, and on the road. And wherever I be found, or wherever I find a man, I throw him down. But if any one will say to the afflicted, 3 times, into their right ear, these names, Utirize, Sabune, Dino, I shall at once retreat. And the 18th said, I am called Baldamek. I separate wife from husband, and bring about a grudge between them. If any one write down the legends on paper, as follows, the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, commands you, retire from this house in peace. And if placed in the antechamber of his house, I at once retire. These spirits, from 16th to 18th, were the 3 decans of the zodiacal sign, Virgo, or the Virgin.
Okay. So, with that all being said, Luna Walker talking about careless whisper. Okay, so likes up, everyone. Please like and share. Let's go on to the next video. Okay, here we go.
I found in the Testament of Solomon blew my mind. A couple of things I want to show you when it comes to like anger or home or men or women leaving each other. Y'all, it is all in this book. There is a reason why these books were taken out of the Bible because they're just too real. All right, check it. I'm gonna show you a few things. This is Solomon, right? And he's talking to the demons. And he says, "Who are you?" And the demon answered, "I am called Orneus." And Solomon said to him, "Tell me, O demon, to which of the 12 signs are you subject?" Okay. And he answered, "To the water pourer or Aquarius." What? All right, let's get down. Here's what Orneus says. Whenever men come to me, y'all, this blew my mind. Whenever men come to me enamored with women, I transform myself into a beautiful female and I take hold of the men in their sleep and play with them. What? You know the Bible don't got that. They took this out. I take hold of the men in their sleep and I play with them. So for the men who are having, what they call wet dreams or whatever, and especially when you're first going through puberty, spiritually, this is why. Okay. And after a while, I take to my wings again and hasten to the heavenly regions. So he played with y'all and then runs. I also appear as a lion, and I am commanded by all the demons. Check this. I am the offspring of the chief messenger Uriel, the power of God. All right, there's some more, but here's what I'm going to show you too. If you're having aches, pains, body stuff, can't understand why, there's demons for that apparently. So this one, and there's some demons' names I can't pronounce, but I'll get it one day. All right. And the seventh, which is a demon, and the seventh said, I am called Svandor, and I weaken the strength of the shoulders and cause them to tremble. And I paralyze the nerves of the hands. If you're having nerve issues in your hands, okay? And I break and bruise the bones of the neck, and I suck out the marrow. But if I hear the words Ariel imprisons Fandor, I immediately retreat. Okay, here's some more. Check these real quick. The 21st, that's a demon. So the 21st demon basically said, I am called Aloth. Listen to this if we have children. And I cause coughing and hard breathing in children. Y'all, if you think of asthma, right? If anyone writes on paper Vorex, which is an angel or archangel, pursue Aloth and fasten it around his neck, I immediately retreat. This other one, I am called Inuth. I steal away men's minds and change their hearts and make a man toothless. If he writes Alazul, which is an angel, pursue Inuth and ties the paper around him, I immediately retreat. Okay, let's check this one out. Let's see. The 31st, which is a demon. So the 31st said, I am called, remember I said I can't pronounce them, so bear with me. And cause lingering disease. If you throw salt, rub in the hand into oil and smear it on the patient, saying, Seraphim, cherubim, which are the angels, help me, I immediately retreat. One of these last ones, check this. The 34th said, I am called Autothyth. Listen, I cause grudges and fighting. Therefore, I am frustrated by who? Alpha and the Omega, the Almighty. Alpha and Omega, if written down. The 35th said, I am called Fenthoth, I can't pronounce it. Hear this no. I cast an evil eye on every man. Therefore, the eye, much suffering, if it is drawn, frustrates me. We've all seen like the blue and the black, like evil eye, words off the evil eye. People think it's not real. Right here in this book, right here. Okay. Last one I'm going to show you. The 30, the 36th demon said, I am called Bionicus. I have a grudge against the body and I lay waste houses. I cause flesh to decay and all else that is similar. If a man writes on the front door of his house, and I actually have this on the front door of my house when I saw this, Melto Ardu Anath, I flee from that place. And then the last thing I wrote down, y'all demons know the time of death. It says, we demons ascend into the expanse of heaven and fly around among the stars. And we hear the sentences which go forth on the souls of men, and immediately we come, and whether by force of influence, or by fire, or by sword, or by some accident, we veil our act of destruction. We hear it all the time, especially if we grew up in the Christian church, y'all. That everything starts in the spirit, right? We're fighting against what? Spiritual things, not flesh and bones and blood. And the Testament of Solomon in the Apocrypha, these are the books that they took out of the Bible, has it. All right, I will see you guys next week. Join me every Wednesday and Friday. We go through the Apocrypha and we read what has been missing.
Now, what I find interesting about what she was reading in the Apocrypha, how many of you have ever read the Apocrypha? You know, that's one of the books removed from the Bible, but what she was reading sounded very similar to what they were saying about the Lesser Key of Solomon. Did you all catch that? Did you all catch that? Literally sounded the same. It was talking about demons and what they cause. Okay. So I find that very interesting because I did not know that until I started doing my research. Now, mind you, the Apocrypha and the Book of Enoch are two books that I have read. I have not written the entire things, but I have read those. There's 14 books removed from the Bible. Okay. There's 66 books in the Bible. There's supposed to be 80. They removed 14 of those books. Okay. For various reasons. Okay. Please pay attention. Now, that all being said, and if you haven't read any of those books, you should read some of them. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen so we can get started with the next video. We're about to be out of here in a minute. Reggie says, I have always been taught of the spiritual world that exists right on top of this one beings and all. Absolutely. Reggie says control. Yes, I agree. I absolutely agree. Like up, everyone. Please like and share.
The Lesser Key of Solomon. Yes, the Greater Key of Solomon and the Lesser Key of Solomon are both adapted pieces of texts from the same source material called the Testament of Solomon. Let's get into some ideological lineage and grimoire history. Hey, I'm Alice, and I'm an alchemist and demonologist. I work with and talk to demons and study old grimoires in depth. If that sounds interesting, exciting, dangerous.
Now, I want you all to pay attention. She just said that she talks to demons. Okay, y'all heard that, right? She said that she talks to demons, and she seems real happy and cheerful about it. Now, I'm sorry, but I don't want to talk to demons unless I'm commanding them to leave from my presence if they should be there. Other than that, I have nothing to say to them, but that's just me. Okay? Luna said, I haven't, but I will now, Queen. I think you're a healer. Well, thank you, beloved. I actually am because I'm a shaman. Okay? We'll talk about that on another date. I think I did a video about all of that, beloved, but let's get into it because this is all getting real nefarious real quick.
To you, hit a like and a follow. And if you want to know more about what grimoires you should be studying or get more of a foundational understanding for your demonology practice, check out the links in bio where you can get yourself an Infernal Practice mentorship session, and we can go in history on lots of different grimoires and sources for you in your practice. So let's start with the myth that got us these texts. The Testament of Solomon is a pseudo-epigraphal text, so it wasn't really written by Solomon, King Solomon, the biblical king, but it was attributed to him in the same way that many ancient authors would attribute their text to a more well-known source. To my knowledge, the earliest records we have of the Testament of Solomon being a papered existence is about the 1st century. And we see that also come through with Josephus's texts, where he saw the use and described the use of a Solomonic seal in a temple. So we know that those were actually practices that were used, but we aren't sure how close they are to the interpretations and translations that we have now, as it was kind of lost for quite some time. which is that myth. So, according to the mythical origin of this, King Solomon used a bunch of different spirits, 72 spirits of 5 different types, and 72 angels, as well as the 72 names of Yahweh, in order to build or rebuild the Temple of Jerusalem, along with some other things. But the concept was that Solomon constrained all of these different kinds of spirits to do the building for him, which is how we got the Temple of Jerusalem now. Now, after the building was complete, it is said that King Solomon sealed the 72 demons that are in the Ars Goetia, the Lesser Key of Solomon, as well as all of the other spirits, but particularly the demons, into a brass vessel or brazier that was sealed with the symbols of Solomon and the seals of Solomon, and was thrown into a lake. Now, 200 years later, somebody recovered this brass brazier, opened it, and let 3 spirits out. This part of the story comes.
Let me just tell you guys that Luna said you said 72, Queen. Yes, it is 72. Now, let me just tell you guys, when she's talking about he sealed the 72 demons in the brass vessel, that is also, I forgot to mention, that is also where they get the story of the genie in the bottle. Okay, that's where that story comes from, the genie in the bottle that grants you the wishes. Okay, because these demons grant your wishes. They do what you ask them, but look at this vessel. You see that? That's where the story of the genie in the bottle came from. Okay, I forgot to mention that. Okay, but let's continue.
To us from Johann Weyer's Pseudomonarchia Daemonum in his descriptions of both King Payman and King Belial. So if you're looking for the source of this part of the text, because it's not in the ending or the description that is included in the last few pages of the Ars Goetia with the magical vessel. So 3 spirits escaped, kind of 4, and that was King Beleth, King Asmodeus, and King Belial, who were heralded by President Gap, who is sometimes known as King. So those spirits went forth only 200 years after this brazier was thrown into this lake. And the other spirits remained trapped and were transported and buried back under the Temple of Jerusalem, which is where this brazier was found by the Knights Templar during the First Crusade. So mythologically speaking, it is said that the Knights Templar found this brazier, opened it, and learned the skills required from the spirits that were trapped there, which is how the Knights Templar gained the power that they did going forward from that moment. And with the ideological lineage of this, that is very important because it was the Knights Templar who started the kind of translations and more modern workings with all of these spirits. So it's really important to remember that that is the myth. That is not literal history, though it does include weavings of history. We do have writings and a long line of history of people all through the ages working with all of these different deities, even during the mythological time that they were sealed in this brazier. So I would not say that that means that these were literally demons being literally trapped, right? Mythology is important to understand as an aspect or as a description and understanding, but not as the literal actions of those deities. Alongside that ideological lineage piece, we get the separation of the greater and lesser keys, right? They have different purposes essentially, but also we see the encoding of much of the language and tools used to work with these spirits, and we see that intentionally corrupted. The way that we know that is that we can compare to handwritten, similarly sourced notes from other alchemists and writers at the time to see what changes were made intentionally to kind of subvert the magic per se. So this is a page out of Basil Valentine's will. This is copied into the Weiser Concise Guide of Alchemy, but you can see this comes from his will in 1671. And this is his handwritten notes of decoding the sigils. You can find that online almost anywhere. Those symbols you can use to decode, for instance, we'll use King Asmodeus' sigil. The sigil is the part on the inside. The seal is the part with the name and the circles around it. We as demonologers do not use sealed sigils. They are a symbol of constraining a deity. They're a symbol of enslaving them. If that's not the respect that you want to show, don't use their name or circle around it. But if you break this down, you can see there are symbols that are described very clearly or listed what they mean in Basil Valentine's will. So you can go element by element and break down, this is King Belith's, the many different parts or aspects of their sigil in accordance to how it was encoded originally and understood by those who worked with these demons in a closer to original line of ideological lineage. Just a reminder, don't use the magic out of the Testaments of Solomon, the lesser key or greater keys. That magic is intentionally constraining to these deities. And remember kind of the golden rule of foundation. If you don't want something to be able to constrain you that way or order you around that way, don't do it to them, or try, essentially. So don't use the magic out of it, but definitely do your research on the lineage and understandings. And you can certainly understand more about the deities in this book by breaking down their sigils.
Okay, so she was basically saying, don't try to constrain the demons. Like, don't try to order them around like King Solomon was supposedly doing. And also, don't try to trap them or anything like that unless you want that done to you. That's what she says. Now, pay attention. So, as the demons were being named, Reggie says that he's heard of Asmodeus or Asmodeus. I've heard of him too. If you I remember when I had the young man on my show who I interviewed who said that he was being tortured by demons. Demons were harassing him, and all of this had been doing so for years. And I determined that it was likely a spiritual spouse because he was unable to have a healthy, happy, intimate relationship because these demons kept harassing him. Okay. And then so I told him about a pastor who was able to remove these things from people by deliverance. So, with that all being said, this information that I had, this research that I had, came from the story of Sarah. Sarah had 7 husbands, and each of her husbands was killed on their wedding night by this demon that was in love with her by the name of Asmodeus. Okay, Asmodeus, also known as Ashmedai, a demon king. Okay, in the apocryphal book or the Tobit. Now, and pay attention, the young lady who was reading the book aloud on the prior video, that's the book that she was reading, the Apocrypha, which was removed from the Bible. But so nonetheless, Asmodeus killed Sarah's 7 husbands on their wedding nights out of true love for her, or out of love for her. Okay. And then Tobias, with Raphael's help, marries Sarah and expels Asmodeus. So this was a demon who was in love with this woman. And so you heard when I played the video where all the demons were announcing themselves and saying what kind of strife and things that they cause and how they can be stopped from doing so if they hear certain words. There was one that said they caused problems between a man and his wife. Okay. So this is what Asmodeus does. Asmodeus was in love with this woman and killed all of her husbands. And this is what spiritual spouses do. Okay, this is why people who have spiritual spouses attached to them, I believe it's Asmodeus. And at the end of the day, these things do not allow these people to have healthy, happy relationships. Often they find themselves by themselves. People break up with them or just leave them for no good reason. Okay. So with that all being said, I find this all very nefarious. All right. Nessa G said, don't want anything to do with any demons. I don't blame you. Neither do I, beloved. Okay. Neither do I. But now let's go. I think I'm going to play one more video and then we're out of here. Hold on just a moment. Likes up, everyone, please. Like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, here we go. Satan's most powerful kingdom exposed, the Marine Kingdom. I don't know if I want to play that one. That's like 17 minutes long. Okay, we'll skip that one for now. Okay, so I think I'm gonna end it right here because the rest of these videos seem to have music in them. Hold on, let me see about this one. Now, the one that I do want to play is like 17 minutes long, so I'm not going to get started in that one right now. But we'll go to this one, okay? Now, this is one where they're talking about the Lesser Key of Solomon, and they're talking about some of the symbols, specifically the secret seal of Solomon. Okay, the one that I showed you. Aziz says, some witchcraft practitioners will send demons after you to spy on you, hurt you, and murk you. Yes, absolutely. And we've talked about that on here, beloved. Those type of people will send familiar spirits. That's what they'll do. Or monitoring spirits. Okay, monitoring spirits are the ones that come and spy on you to gather information and intel and go and give it to other people that have sent them upon you. So absolutely, we have talked about that. There's a very good video that I did about that. For anyone who missed it, please go back and watch it when you have a chance. Okay, Red Wine Entertainment said definitely can connect some dots. Okay, so now let's get into this last video and then we're out of here.
Symbol called, for those of you familiar with this is an ancient symbol called Solomon's Key or the Lesser Key of Solomon. Interestingly enough, it has this exact geometric angle. And when you overlay that ancient symbol with Wardenclyffe Tower, it fits like a glove. So I don't know if this is a coincidence, but it certainly seems as though this could have been a model for Tesla. Victor Schauberger's work, he was a master of what he calls implosion geometry or implosion physics. And he knew that there were two types of energy, an outward masculine.
Hold on, let me just pause that for a second. Z, this is the video I'm talking about right here. For anyone who missed the video that I did about monitoring spirits, there's the link. I just put it in the chat, okay? That's the one for the monitoring spirits video.
Masculine explosive energy and an inward feminine implosive energy that created health benefits and was helpful to build up and energize. And that's what he used for his free energy devices that he developed. This is an example of the Vortex home power generator that he put together. It's reputed to have achieved 10 times over unity, which means, of course, it puts out 10 times more energy than you have to put into it. And sure enough, when you take the hood off of the device that Victor's holding in his hands on the left, and you look at the imploder, it has this very same geometry in it. Here's some examples of some technology that came from Schauberger's work. We looked at the trout on the right side earlier, and you can see that his drawings, he knew this geometry and he used it in his drawings. In the bottom right-hand corner, this is an example of some devices that he made to speed up the flow of water in pipes. And then in the center, we see a device called a repulse sign. And I'm not sure this was ever built, but the geometry is in that drawing as well. And on the left, we have pictures of the Heinkel, which is the first jet aircraft that was ever produced. And a lot of the designs were stolen from Schauberger. And sure enough, we find this geometry in the wings in Russia around 1980. And it talks about the use of the golden ratio and its impact on free energy development. So what Anatoly Akimov and his team found was that, and this is translated from Russian, so I've tried to retranslate it into better English, but the plane geometry of the physical vacuum or the ether is distorted or changed by means of macro bodies or objects of certain sizes and shapes. And thus, torsion fields of considerable strength can be created purely through form. And if the bodies have geometric dimensions which fulfill the golden section or the golden ratio, then they can play the role of concentrators of the spinor field or act as free energy generators. So this research is important. I'll get to it in a minute, but because this information is, you can't get it in the United States either. John Keely's work, any of you familiar with Keely's work from the 19th century? Okay. I don't know a lot about this, but I saw these diagrams. It looks like his water devices use this geometry, and he used this example of vortex mechanics. This is a diagram that comes from his drawings, and both of them use this geometry as well. So what happened to all of these technologies that use this geometric angle? Well, the Russian pyramid research was never allowed to be published in the West. Victor Schauberger was forced under duress to license his technology to American business interests. He was brought over here essentially under false pretenses, and that technology has never publicly resurfaced. Nikola Tesla's research was seized by the US government upon his death. John Keely's work was likely sent to a group that he belonged to called the Theosophical Society for Safekeeping. And after his death, there were concerted efforts to discredit his work in the press.
With that all being said, I'm sorry, I was distracted. I was half listening to that. Because I was trying to find something real quick. But was that guy talking about the lesser key of Solomon, or was he just talking about Nikola Tesla and geometry and all of that? He was talking about, hold on. I think what he was getting at, let me pull this up real quick, was talking about this symbol right here, the secret seal of Solomon, okay? Which I told you guys, this is what Solomon would use as a layer of protection. If any of the demons that he conjured got out of control, he would use this to take away their power and to have them trapped so that he could put them into the brass vessel. Okay, and so with that all been said, it sounded like he was basically talking about the geometrical shapes and all of that is contained in this. Okay, I really couldn't hear wasn't really paying attention to the whole thing because I was multitasking. All right, so anyway, I hope you all got something out of that. Now, mind you, we'll be talking more about stuff like this. We'll be talking about the greater key of Solomon next. Okay, this was the lesser key. We'll talk about the greater key next. Okay. All Negroes official said, well, saving that in my phone. Okay. So with that all being said, Z said, so what was Tesla really doing? Tesla was a great inventor, in my opinion. He was very innovative, and he actually was, in my opinion, better than Albert Einstein, but they don't give him the credit that's due. And when you think about Elon Musk, that's where he got the name of his cars from, Tesla. But Nikola Tesla, unfortunately, died broke and poor. Now, they say that I'm sorry, did I say Albert Einstein? I meant Thomas Edison. Okay, they gave him credit for some of Tesla's works. Okay, and Nikola Tesla supposedly died broke. Now, mind you, he invented a carbonator that ran on water years ago. Okay, decades ago, and Ford Motor Company, I think they got the patent for it or something like that. Okay, it's been a long time since I've studied Nikola Tesla. That's when I was like probably in college. Okay. So with that all being said, he definitely had people steal some of his ideas. Okay. So that all being said, everyone please likes up, please like and share. Reggie said they deleted Tesla. He was ahead of his time. Yes, he absolutely was. Okay. I mean, he had this blueprint for how you could harness energy, like electricity, not inside of a home, but basically he had a way, I don't want to misspeak. If I'm not mistaken, because like I said, it's been a while since I studied Nikola Tesla, but it was something that he had a blueprint for, basically where you could harness energy yourself outside, like electricity. Okay. And like I said, he had this carbonator that ran by water. Okay. But of course, these people who manufacture cars, they don't want that. They want you to have to pay for oil and gas and all of that. So those things didn't go over well. Okay. Free energy, absolutely. Red wine entertainment, exactly. That sums it up. Okay, that sums it up. Exactly. Basically, free energy, the things that we should be getting for free that they charge us for. Okay, please pay attention. Now, with that all being said, I love you all to life. I hope you enjoy the rest of this evening. Okay, we will be back tomorrow about the same time, talking about the greater key of Solomon. All right, so everyone enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Peace.